No, I'm doing it right.
Want me to get some drink?
Yeah, get in whatever you want.
Glass of water. See, you already have a cup out. Did you want something else besides water?
I'm gonna have some buttermilk.
Get one of these, just a regular glass for that?
Yeah. Oh shoot.
Well, I think I got more of your ideas than you think.
What kind of ideas?
Just about, you know, working independently. You know,
Mm-hmm.
how much you like being able to work, have freedom in your work, and
Yeah.
you know, being able to live where you want, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's something.
Well, it's one
That's
thing.
what I strive for. It
Yeah. Well,
seems
that's one thing. A lot of people, when they looking for life work, all they think about money. You know, get money. But sometimes there are, I'd say most of the time, there are other facets of a job that are more important than just the money, and that is what freedom you have, what kind of movement you have. Is it social? Do you enjoy it? Is it something you can enjoy? Can you get wrapped up in it, you know? And that's what's important. Because, boy, you put in a lot of hours over a lifetime on a job. And it can be pretty sickening. You want some pickles?
Sure. Well, that whole time that you were talking about it, it just made me think, because that's exactly how I want to be. You know, I want to be able to have that kind of freedom and do what I want to do on my time and
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
yeah.
I mean, I'm sure everybody does, but well, I don't know. Maybe not everybody does. I guess.
Well, a lot of kids will get a job after high school or during high school or something like that and make money. And it's the first money they ever made, and it really impresses them. And they get a little timid from trying to get anything outside, and they find out spending their whole life doing that. Because they haven't ever done anything else, or have they tried to do anything else? And that's a shame, because a lot of those jobs are menial to begin with. Of course, on the other hand, I don't know whether it's necessarily true anymore, but it certainly used to be. Well, I guess it's true yet. Somebody comes in and does a small job who graduates up the ranks and finally gets to be CEO.
Yeah.
But you can't always plan on being a CEO when you start.
So you want buttermilk?
It's back there somewhere.
Last of it.
Lots of it. You get a drink for yourself?
Yeah.
Where are you going to sit here?
Smells good.
Good. Well, what is your when you look forward to your future? What is it you're striving for?
Well,
Or what is your dream?
essentially that. I mean,
Hmm?
I'd like to have my own, my own thing going where I can make films that I want to make, and in some way make it, like maybe work with other filmmakers on their films.
Would you like that? You want like to have your own business, right? Well, there's nothing wrong with that.
Work to a point, get it to a point where my business could, or my films would make enough money that they could support my business, and that in kind I could help support other filmmakers to help to do their films.
You have that on? You want that camera on?
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of advantages to have your own business. I did for most of my life. But I can tell you this, you work your butt off. You have nobody else to rely on. You can't say, oh, let him do it. You do it. And you do it at all hours. And you answer all telephones. And you yes sir a lot, where you'd like to tell them to go to hell, But in spite of it, you can, when you have the work to do, you can do it on your own time, which is one thing I appreciated. If I goofed off and played golf during the day, I knew that I could work at home at night,
Right.
But there's a lot of satisfaction having your own business. Watching it grow, and then the joy of getting a new account or various other things like that. Oh, and another thing too. And that is when you're beginning, unless you're very lucky and have an angel or something, you're going to have a lot of very dry spells. When money's scarce, when there isn't any, you wonder how in the world are we going to get along or something. But you really need those things to get you out and off your duff and going out after it, you know. It was a little hard after the war for those of us that had for 5 years been on salaries and so forth to suddenly have no job, no nothing. And there was no job to be had because the soldiers were all coming back and they were taking a lot of the jobs and so forth. And I had some real trying times there starting my new business there right after the war, because when I started my business, I started in July of '45, 1 month before the war ended. I quit my LERC job, and the accounts I had was Kemmer Advertising Agency, which is a pretty good sized Hollywood advertising agency, who was basically wartime accounts. I had the Monasco Manufacturing Company, who made landing gears for airplanes. That's all they'd made, landing gears. Big company though. And I did their work for them. And I had the LERC, which was the Lockheed Employees Recreation Club. I did all their photography and loads of it, you know, all their activities and everything else. And I carried that over into my own account when I quit the business, quit Lockheed. I did it as a self-owned business, you know. But 1 month later, the war ended. And boy, as soon as that war was over, all 3 of my accounts dropped. They were dead in the water because they were all doing war products thing, and there was no call for any more. It was the armistice killed everything. And so that meant I, and along with thousands of others, had to really go out and start ringing doorbells, thinking, what in the world are we going to do? Well, I had a month start. I had my business set up and everything else. The only thing is now I had to go out and get the work. And that was hard. Well, I rung a lot of doorbells. Fortunately for me, I had a pretty good selection of pictures, had a pretty good reputation for my years at Lockheed that I could show. That helped me a lot. But still it was tough because, well, the other businesses that I'm calling on aren't doing very well yet, you know. They're still switching over, getting the peacetime economy. Because in the war, everything is wartime economy. And that's exactly a good phrase, wartime economy. It meant the entire economy was based on a wartime footing. And all of a sudden this has changed. No, that's gone. Now you're just out there in thin air. And it was a tough deal. And we had it real rough going. How's your sandwich? You eat it all? You want another one?
No.
You want anything else?
More than enough. That's great.
I got some fruit in there. Banana.
That's perfect. So how'd you get it going then? Once, I mean, you said you ring a lot of doorbells. Was it slow or?
Actually, it was a real tough struggle through 45, through the balance of 45. Until sometime in the middle of 46. I was getting a few little jobs, enough to keep the doors open and to get us a few pork and beans for home. But then my fortunes changed. Max Stiles who prior to the war had been the feature writer for the LA Examiner newspaper in sports. And then the war came. He went to work for Lockheed in the publicity department as a publicity writer. And that threw me in with him because he needed pictures to illustrate his. So most of the days during the war, or most of the time, I was doing work for the publicity department and for Mike Stiles. And we became very good friends. And so anyhow, the war ends, and I don't hear any more of Max, or he doesn't hear any more of me until one day a phone rang. Probably well, I suppose in the spring of '46. He says, "You ever shoot football?" I said, "Yeah, back in Davenport, I used to shoot it when I was on the newspaper." He said, "Good." He said, "I know you can shoot pictures of airplanes, but I didn't know how you were on football." He says, "I just got a job as a publicity director for the Rams, who are moving out here from Cincinnati, Cleveland. You think you can handle publicity on that?" "Oh, yes, I can." So I started with the Rams, 1946, and did pretty well because I was with them until I retired in 1980. But then Max hadn't stopped there. He also knew Al Wesson, who was publicity director at Hollywood Park. So he talked to Al about me. It just happened Al was a little dissatisfied with the guy he had down there. So he gave me an interview. And then he says, "I'll tell you what I'll do is, I've got a Western harness racing meeting that comes ahead of ours. And I think they're looking for a photographer. I'll tell them about you. And if you do a good job for them, you got a job with us." So I started with Western harness racing, and that worked out well. I knew nothing about horse racing. I'd never been to a racetrack. I didn't know what it was all about. Judd Gunderson, who worked for me, and I went out to Santa Anita to see what a horse race was like. What it was, well, I know a horse ran around a track, but other than that,
Right.
I didn't know anything. So we went out and spent most of one afternoon out there and asked a lot of questions and looked at what went on. And that was about all the introduction we had to horse racing. But then when we started at Hollywood Park with the harness racing, we had to start shooting publicity pictures before the races before the races started. We were shooting pictures probably a month before the race started. So I began to get the idea of what, in fact, I got a lot of my own ideas in there too. I think that's one of the reasons I was successful is I didn't do what everybody else did. I tried to get another angle on it. So I was pulling tricks that no one else had pulled. And for one thing, I'll give you an idea of what I mean. You used to go out and shoot pictures of the horses out in the stable area, the horses that were in the big races, on the Saturday races. In those days, at the beginning, they didn't race Sunday. Later, they raced Sunday. And so, customarily, they just shoot a horse's head, or they shoot it with a trainer or something like that. And I started thinking of ideas, and one of them was get some models. So I went to a modeling agent up in Hollywood, and I told him, I said, "Look, I can give you gals some publicity, but you got to pose free of charge." So I'd get one of these gals, and I'd go down, take her down there, and get her dressed low cut and all something like that. with a horse's head, you know, with some action on it. It's just I stand there. But talking to the horse or something, you know, holy mackerel, geez. Boy, they ate it up. This is great stuff. I was in all the newspapers. Or I'd think up gags, like one that comes to mind was Mrs. Rabbit. She was a feature horse that was in the big races. So she was coming up in one of the races. So they wanted some pictures of her. So I went out to a rabbit hutchery or whatever they call them. I said, "Can I borrow a couple of your rabbits?" I told them what I wanted to do. "Oh, that's all right. Sure, go ahead. That's okay. So just bring them back." So I borrowed the rabbits. I took them out there. I wanted to get a picture of the rabbits in the stall and the horse's head down there, smelling them, you know, or something like that. Cute picture. So anyhow, I get them out there, and I get them in the stall, and I can't get them together. This one's going over there, this one's hopping over there, and the horse is over there, and everything. So I got to get them together. So anyhow, I said, "You got a little piece of rope or something around here?" The guy gave me a little piece of rope. So I tied their two back legs, one back leg of each rabbit together, like that, so they'd stay together. And I put him down in the grass, and the horse came over. He was curious. And I got a terrific shot. Just about one. Because anyhow, those rabbits, when they realized that they were tied together like that, they were terrorized. And if you ever heard a rabbit scream, you'll never forget it. And they screamed, and boy, I am telling you, every dog, every cat, every chicken, every animal in that whole stable area was yelling at the top of his voice. I mean, they heard this terror, turned them all on. Boy, the whole darn stable area was going. So I untied them quickly, and that settled that problem. And I'd gotten my picture. But that wasn't the worst thing I could have done for those rabbits, because I took them out to the car, and I put them, I don't know whether I had a box for them. I think I had a box for them. And went back, and I was going to spend several hours there at the track before I went back, which I did. So I come back out. The car was hot. And those rabbits were nothing, they were soaking wet with sweat, and just lifeless. Boy, I opened that car door up and everything else, and got all the air in there I could, and headed out for the hills. And by the time I got back to the rabbitry, they looked great. I was afraid I'd had to buy them, which I wouldn't have mind doing. But anyhow, that was the end of that Mrs. Rabbit thing. But that's an idea of the things I would do. I would go out of my way to do this. That's one thing I want to tell you. When you get a job and you're doing a job for somebody, give them something extra. Give them something extra. And I always try to do that. If there's any way I could, well, even like prints. I mean, they order 20 prints or something on, I'd give them 20, 21, or 22. You know, they never were short. They always had more than they needed. And I had a system too where I would make a contact print. We used to shoot 4x5 negatives, and a contact print would be 4x5. I'd make a contact print of every negative that I thought they would like, numbered it for their file, so they can always get it out of their file and order it by number. See, I loved that. And I didn't charge for it. Later on, I wished I had, because boy, like I'd go out to Rams camp, I'd shoot 200 negatives on training day or something, and soup all those negatives and get a contact print on all those things. it got so they used the contact prints to put their orders in, see? Because I'd shoot 2 or 3 pictures of each guy or something, so they'd pick out the one they liked. So it was a lot of work, but paid off. But anyhow, with the racetracks, that gave me a solid footing.
Yeah.
I had some money coming in. Of course, that was seasonal. I think the harness race ran 4 weeks, maybe 6 weeks, not over 6 weeks. But the Hollywood Park and Santa Anita ran, what was it, about 13, 14 weeks.
In the summer, or?
Well, the harness racing originally was in the spring. And then that was followed by Hollywood Park, which usually opened around June. And, or May or June, and went into early August. Then Del Mar started up, and Del Mar went from August to about the 1st of October.